iPhones. You know, there was really never enough time in a day to really express how much I hated the battery life on the lineup of 12 models. Up until the recent release of the iPhone 13, battery life I felt like was always an issue for everybody, unless you picked up a Max version. Friends and family always complained about it and asked me, is there a fix for my battery? I always feel like it's dying way too fast on my iPhone. So after a ton of trial and error and talking with a few different Apple engineers and employees, I came up with my top 10 tips to make sure you get through your day without having to worry about battery life. Note that these tips will work with pretty much any iPhone out there as long as your software is up to date. Now, this isn't that much of an issue anymore thanks to the recent lineup of 13 Pro, 13 Pro Max models. The battery life is absolutely fantastic. Aside from the 13 mini, which I killed in about a half day using photo, 5G video, all that stuff, the battery drains rather quickly on that. But these tips will significantly boost the battery life of your 13 mini and all your older iPhone models. Now, I am doing full reviews on the iPhone 13 Pro versus the Google Pixel 6, the S21 Ultra. So if you guys want to see that or anything else tech or gaming related and you end up enjoying the content, please make sure you guys subscribe and do gently smash that like button for me. I truly appreciate it. Tip number 1, the majority of battery issues you'll experience with your iPhone are going to be software related. It tracks you everywhere you go, which doesn't help the cause, but the real reasons are hidden deep in your settings. Starting off with push mail. When mail is set to push, your iPhone is constantly connecting to your email server trying to fetch new data. Every few seconds it's checking if there's mail. Constantly looking for that flow of data absolutely erodes your battery life and turns out to actually be one of the biggest culprits when it comes to battery life draining. So we'll start here first. Go to Settings, Mail, Accounts, and tap Fetch New Data. At the top, make sure you deselect Push and then scroll to the bottom and set your server to fetch data every 15 minutes. Once you have that done, tap each individual email account you have and change that setting to fetch. Mouth is dry. Waiting for a few minutes for an email to come through, in my opinion, is definitely worth the significant upgrade in your battery life. And this doesn't mean that an email is not going to come through every few minutes. It's just not constantly refreshing in the background, searching for data that might not even be there. So if you're waiting on an important email, you can manually just go into the Mail app and refresh it yourself, and it should be there. This just stops it from refreshing the background when you're not even recognizing it. Tip number 2, head over to Settings, Privacy, and scroll down to the bottom where you'll select Analytics and Improvements. Make sure you turn off Share iPhone and Watch Analytics. This is another one of those sneaky features that's running in the background and always sending Apple data about how you're using your phone. Tip number 3, make sure you turn off all of your location services. Now, I'm not saying turn off everything, but your headphones and Nike don't always need to know where you're at. So go through your location services and turn off every one of them you feel like doesn't need to know where your location's at. So head over to Settings, Privacy, Location Services, and turn off each and every single app that doesn't need to know where you are or what you're doing. If you see a purple arrow next to an app, it just means it's using your location now. A gray arrow means it's used it in the past 24 hours. And a purple outlined arrow means that it's using geofence, which is a perimeter around your location. For example, if you use your phone as a key fob for your Tesla like I do, it's always asking to use GPS, so it knows when you're near or walking away from your vehicles. So it locks and unlocks your doors, among other things, but that's its primary function. In that same group of settings, head down to System Services and turn off everything except Find My iPhone, Emergency Calls and SOS, networking, wireless, as well as motion calibration and distance. But if you're not using your iPhone to track your steps or your workouts, then you can honestly just turn that off as well. Towards the bottom, select significant locations and make sure you turn that off as well, so your iPhone doesn't track you everywhere you go. Head back then to System Services and uncheck both Analytics plus Routing and Traffic under the Product Improvement section. Those also drain your battery pretty quickly. Scroll a bit further down and you'll see the status bar icon. Make sure you uncheck that setting as well. And when you turn these off, your iPhone will work just as it did before. It's not really going to affect your everyday use. I mean, most of these settings are for marketing and research anyway, and won't affect the way that your iPhone handles everyday tasks. It's more so Apple just receiving data about your iPhone's behavior, if anything. Now, tip number 4 is a simple one, but something I seem to always overlook because I'm super busy all the time. Make sure you guys close out your apps every day or two. A common misconception, especially when it comes to my family and friends, they think that the apps close when they head back to the home screen. That's not the case. In some instances, those apps might even crash in the background and completely drain your battery. You'll notice this happening when you're not even charging your iPhone or using it heavily, and you'll notice that the iPhone gets really hot. That's one giveaway of a background app that's crashed and constantly trying to refresh. So keep that in mind. Make sure you guys close out your apps every day or two. A simple way to close out your apps is just swipe up from the bottom center of your screen and start swiping up on every app just to close them out. If you're running an older model iPhone that has the home button instead of the swipe up feature, you can just double tap on that home button and swipe up and close the apps out that way. Make sure you guys close every app every day or two. Trust me, it'll do wonders for your battery life. Now, tip number 5 is notifications. This is a lot easier now thanks to the addition of focus modes with iOS 15. Certain apps or functions send you information during its intended time frame, but time and time again, just like location services or mail, it's constantly sending and receiving data. So when you give the app permission to send push notifications, the same thing applies here. You're allowing that app to keep running in the background, send you an alert, receive one, which for Twitter and Instagram used to go out 500 times a day for me and absolutely destroy my battery life, along with everything else running in the background. This all adds up. So to fix this, head to settings, notifications, and turn off every single app, banner, or notification style that's not important to you. It's probably gonna take a while, so make sure you set up some time in advance to do so. Now, tip number 6 has to do with fixing background app refresh. Now head over to settings, general, background app refresh, and turn off every app on that list that doesn't need to download information when you're not using it. Out of the hundreds of apps I have, less than 10 of them are allowed to refresh data for me in the background, many of which are in regards to security or platform services that back up videos or any important information. Lucky tip number 7 is make sure you have your auto lock feature turned on. For someone like me who has a terrible attention span, I can't tell you how many times I've walked away from my phone, left it somewhere, only to come back 2 hours later and find it at 5%. Why? Because it didn't have that auto lock feature turned on. So set it anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. I feel like that's what works best. This way, if you walk away, it doesn't just stay unlocked the whole time, draining your battery. Now, tip number 8, and this is a big one. If you're not actively using or actually need 5G, just turn it off. The 5G chip absolutely melts your battery life, especially on the iPhone 13 mini. Thankfully, we have an option here that's kind of in between that I personally use and recommend, and that's setting your iPhone to use 5G when it's available instead of always having it search for a connection, and that's 5G Auto. So head to settings, tap cellular, select cellular data options, voice and data, and select 5G Auto. This will still reduce your battery quicker than regular LTE, but not as bad as 5G when it's on all the time. Now, tip number 9 is turn on dark mode, which for the life of me, I can't figure out why you wouldn't use dark mode, especially if you're on your phone all day. I mean, protect your eyes. Not to mention, darker colored pixels use a lot less energy than lighter colored pixels. So head back into settings, tap display and brightness, and tap dark for your appearance mode, and it should kick in right away for your iPhone and for any other app that's compatible. Tip number 10 is actually to turn on reduce motion. This does 2 things. Prevents your battery from dying faster and also prevents you from falling over due to motion sickness if you're someone who can't stop staring at your screen. What happens here is the effect of apps zooming in and out and shifting in certain movements has caused scary and severe symptoms for many of us in the past, including myself. Symptoms ranging from motion sickness to nausea to even cases of what feel like vertigo. Now, when your eyes are focused on a screen this small that creates these movements of motion, when in actual reality, nothing behind the phone or around it's moving, it kind of tricks your brain and throws off your equilibrium to where you can get dizzy and feel like you're gonna pass out. Now, notice this tends to happen to me when I'm staring at my phone for too long before I go play basketball. So I know my trigger points, but make sure you guys turn on reduce motion. It'll prevent you from passing out and also increase the battery life on your iPhone. Those are my top 10 tips for increasing the battery life on any iPhone. If I missed any, make sure you guys let me know down below in the comment section. If you want to see more, go ahead and follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DetroitFury. And if you enjoyed this content, please make sure you smash that like button for me, subscribe, turn on your post notifications. It really means a lot to me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.